Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Germantown. My name is Andrea Barsovic. My pronouns are she and her. We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation united in a common purpose to make love real in our lives and in the world. We are diverse in our beliefs. Believers and seekers, atheist and agnostic, and we welcome you here no matter your race, your class, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your family structure, your job, or your health. We know that no matter our differences, we are connected by the interdependent web of life. If you are visiting, whether it's your first or fifth or 15th visit, we invite you to introduce yourself to someone at the welcome table over here, and they would be happy to answer any questions that you have about this congregation or Unitarian Universalism. Please complete a visitor card and join us for fellowship and pizza today in the Edna Jones room and the dining room following the service. As we work to widen access to our community, please note there are large print hymnals available in the front of the sanctuary, and listening assistive devices can be picked up from the sound desk. We also offer large print orders of service at the ushers table. We have an elevator for those who need assistance going up and down. Just ask an usher where it is. It's kind of hidden. Gender-neutral restrooms can be found at the back of the sanctuary and down the stairs. And gendered restrooms are through the door here and down the hall. Use whichever feels right to you. And lastly, longtime members, if you thought none of this applies to you, as our community grows, we ask that you wear your name tags. It will allow us to greet one another warmly and genuinely and give us a fighting chance at learning people's names. On page 4 of your order of service, we list upcoming events of note. We would like to call your attention especially to next Saturday's 1 p.m. memorial service for Sarah West. We expect a lot of people who will come out to honor and remember this remarkable, self-described, feisty, and accomplished person. All are welcome to celebrate our USG leader. After the service, there will be a short congregational vote on delegates to the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly. If you are a member of this congregation for at least the last 3 months, you may stick around to complete a ballot after the service has ended. Oh, and there's a correction. Let me get that. With regard to the election of delegates, there was an error in the communicator suggesting that the ballot was closed on Friday. That is incorrect. For those who wish to vote by absentee ballot, there is a link in the communicator and a dedicated email. This link will remain open until 11:30 a.m. today. And of course, you may also vote in person in the congregational meeting after the service. For those impacted by the actions of DOGE or the federal government's slashing of jobs, please join Megan in the Sullivan room at 12:15 for fellowship and support. Lastly, I already talked about Sarah West. Okay, there's so much more happening today and in the week to come. There's not enough time for me to announce it all. So please refer to the calendar in your order of service for wherever else you can plug in. And now, as we deepen into worship, I ask that you silence your cell phones and allow yourselves to be present for this hour. But please, don't silence your children. Their sounds are welcome here.
Good morning, USG. Good morning. My name is Reverend Hannah Capaldi. I use she, her pronouns, and I serve this congregation with joy as your minister. Our call to worship today comes from the Reverend Sharon Wiley. It is said that ministers are here to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. I say we are all afflicted, and we are all comfortable. May our time together this morning be a comfort and a confrontation. May we find peace in times of tumult. May we here invite tumult into lives of peace. May we find calm in times of restlessness, and may we here allow restlessness to evolve into action. Let this be the place you consider what you've never considered. Let this be the place you imagine for yourself something new and unthinkable. May this hour bring dreams of new ways of being in the world. Come, let us worship together.
This morning, our chalice will be lit by Emily Fleming. Please join me in the unison words printed in your order of service. We light this chalice, the beacon that calls us to love, to justice, to a deepening of the Spirit. And now please rise as you are able for our first hymn, number 396, I Know This Rose Will Open.
Good morning. Our first hymn, number 396, is around this morning, and you might not know it. The choir said they weren't super familiar with it. So Reverend Hannah is preaching on collective risk today, and what's more risky than 100 people in a room singing around together for the first time? So we will sing it twice all together once, and then the choir will lead you. This side will go first, so if you're on this side, watch their mouths. If you're on that side, watch their mouths. We'll sing it 3 times as a round, and we'll meet you on the other side. Deal?
Good? Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zoe Johnston. I use she, her pronouns. I'm your Director of Spiritual Development, and this is our time for all ages. So if all of our young ones, our kids, young at heart, caregivers want to come join me up here, either on the floor or on the steps, we're going to tell a story. And I'm going to...
Big Sister June.
Okay, I'm going to ask if... Can we move up a little bit? We're going to...
get closer. Get out of the aisle.
There we go. That way, as people are coming up and joining us. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to start, but as everybody's filing in. So this morning, we have a tale that comes from the Buddhist tradition. Do you know about Buddhism? It's another of the world's religions. And this story is called The Brave Little Parrot. So long ago, a little parrot lived in a great big green forest. She was a happy bird and loved to fly. But one day, a dark storm hovered over the forest and lightning flashed, and the forest began to burn. The parrot, smelling smoke, flapped her wings and rose up. As she flew, she cried out, "Fire, fire, run, run to the river." Her hope was that others might be able to escape by crossing the river. But as she flew over the burning forest, she saw that many animals were already trapped by the flames. A desperate thought came to her. She saw the one thing that she could do that might save her world. She flew to the river, but she didn't fly across it to safety. Instead, she called to the animals huddled there. "Let us carry water with paw and beak and mouth. Let us douse the flames and save our forest." But the animals responded that it was hopeless. "It's too late. We must stay here where it's safe. There is nothing anyone can do now." But the little parrot said, "I will do what I can." She flew to the river and dipped her body and wings in the cool water. Then she flew back into the raging fire. Would any of you fly back into a fire? No. It feels like a bad idea, but she was very brave. The flames were intense and the heat was terrible. When the parrot was above the heart of the fire, she shook her body and her wings and the few drops of water that still clung to her feathers. They evaporated and were gone. The little parrot flew back to the river and did it again and again and again. Some of the gods happened to look down from their cloud palace and see the fire. They saw from their perch the little parrot and laughed. That little parrot is trying to put out a raging forest fire all by herself with a few drops of water. How silly! But one god was moved. He transformed himself into a bird and flew down to where the little bird was getting more water by the river. "Stop, little parrot. Turn back now before it's too late. Save yourself so you don't fall into the flames." But the parrot replied, "I don't need such advice. All I need is help. I am doing what I can." And she flew back into the fire. The god watched the little parrot fly bravely on. He looked up and saw his fellow gods and goddesses lounging in their cloud palace far above the suffering of the flames below. He exclaimed, "We are gods. We should do something." So deeply moved by the parrot's courage, tears fell from his eyes, falling like rain upon the fire. And because those were tears of a god, wherever they touched, the flames went out. Any animals injured by the fire were made whole and well, including the little parrot who had been burned in the fire, but was now restored to bright and beautiful feathers. "Hooray!" cried the animals, "hooray!" for the little brave parrot in this miraculous rain. The little brave parrot had done all that she could, and somehow it had saved them. So, would you fly into a fire now? So maybe we won't fly into fires, but we can still make brave choices, and we can still do all that we can to save each other. And with that, we are going to head off to our class together as the congregation sings us out with "Go Now in Peace."
Close the distance. We need to be accountable to the change. Close the distance. We need to be accountable to the change we want to see. This week, she asked me to reflect on bravery or risk-taking, which feels very hard for me. I am neither brave nor inclined to risk, but I felt that this might be a time when I could try to be accountable to the change I want to see, to close a gap. In the recent past, we here at USG were a settled, comfortable community leaning toward older age, with lots of gray hair and wrinkles, but few children and young families. Settled and comfortable, but missing the vitality and hope that comes from having young kids around. Suddenly, we have been blessed by a huge number of small beings who do not obey the laws of adulthood or conform to the norms our settled, comfortable community has agreed upon. I find myself at odds with myself. I love the noise and the energy of the young ones. I want them to own this place and for them to take it over and make it over in their preferred image. But it makes me scared to say, I don't know how to respond when my older peers remark, "I almost got knocked down," or "I couldn't hear the service today." This estrangement is puzzling to me. I'm not a boat rocker. I'm more of a peacemaker, one who tries to make the best of a less than ideal situation. But I feel stuck. And I know there are not just two sides to this problem, but many, most of which have not been represented in this reflection. But in front of my beloved community, I want to be brave and take the risk to say, I want to fix this. I want this to be better for everyone. Our faith is present in the depth and quality of our relationships. So let's talk. Let's try to find a solution that honors the needs, hopes, and dreams of all concerned. Thank you. And now to something a little more upbeat. Share the plate. This week we will share our plate with the Germantown Residents for Economic Alternatives Together, AKA GREAT. It's a grassroots organization that works to connect neighbors with one another to build a stronger, sustainable community, share resources, and prevent displacement. GREAT hopes to shape a community that thrives on collective work and responsibility. Please give generously, as we have found that the more we give away, the more comes our way. To give in cash or check, Just drop it in the plate as the ushers pass by. To give by text, follow the instructions on the back of your order of service. At this time, we invite you to contribute your joys and sorrows to the bowls of water in the front of the sanctuary. Choose a smooth stone or a pebble and place it in the water to absorb your pain or ripple out with your joy. Sterns will play as we process. Reverend Hannah will place a smooth stone for Kate Severino and Jeremy Stoff in joy at the birth of their new baby, Remy. Remy joins big sister June in making this a family of 4. May their joy be multiplied by every heart here. Reverend Hannah will place a smooth stone for Noah and Jelana Jackson in joy at the birth of their new baby, Naida, who joins big brother Calum. May their joy be doubled in this community. Reverend Hannah will place a pebble for Judy Morrow as she recovers from diverticulitis. May Judy's healing and recovery be held with fierce love by all here today. Finally, Reverend Hannah will place 1 smooth stone and 1 pebble into the water on behalf of all those joining us online. Please remain seated and join in singing hymn number 123 in the hardback hymnal, Spirit of Life, after which we will share in a moment of silence.
I invite you into a posture of prayer or meditation. Find your feet on the floor. Let your shoulders drop and your jaw go slack. Take a deep breath in, filling your lungs. Exhale all the way. Deep breath in. Exhale all the way. Our words of prayer today come from Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, ancestor of the stars and the sun, you who embrace the vastness of space and us along with it, be with us today. Hold us in our worry, our exhaustion, our grief. Keep us close as we sit with our truth, whatever that may be. Lead us to rest in the quiet, to find solace and renewal in this time of shifting light and dark. You whose arms open with the spinning galaxies, help us to make room as you do for all that is. Open our hearts to our loved ones, our neighbors, the beings with whom we share this planet. Turn us toward another in mercy, right relation, and reconciliation. You who have seen the rising and setting of suns, of seasons, of civilizations, remind us of all that we have learned from the history of the world and from our own histories. Give us the courage to face our mistakes and repair them. Help us understand our interdependence. Lead us to treat all with care. In this space filled with the people among us who shine like stars, this space filled with the sparkle of love and care, we give thanks for this moment to be together. May our senses be open to the beauty of this day, this season, this world. Amen.
This morning's reading is Crocuses, adapted from Joe Carr. It takes courage to be crocus-minded. I'd rather wait until June, like wise roses, when the hazards of winter are safely behind, when I'm expected and everything's ready for roses. But crocuses, highly irregular, knifing up through the hard frozen ground, sticking their necks out because they believe in spring and have something personal and emphatic to say about it. I am by nature rose-minded. Even when I have studied the situation here and know there are wrongs that need righting, affirmations that need stating, I know also that my speaking out might rock the boat. Well, I'd rather wait until June. Maybe later, things will work themselves out and we won't have to make an issue of it. Oh, forgive me, wrongs don't work themselves out. Injustices and inequalities and hurts don't just dissolve. Someone has to stick his neck out. Someone who cares enough to think through and work through hard ground because she believes and has something personal and emphatic to say about it. Me, crocus-minded? Could it be that there are things that need to be said and I could be the one to say them? I pray for courage. Amen.
Hearts open, minds awake, change us now for heaven's sake. Leave us not alone in hatred's wake. Show us how to love, show us how to love, show us how
This week in staff meeting, we discussed the memorial garden, specifically digging a hole for some of Sarah West's ashes to be buried right next to her husband, where her plaque will eventually be situated. Could be tricky, Mike said, ground's still frozen. Ground is still frozen, despite the warm sun and the longer days. We are firmly in that liminal space between winter and spring. Who dares dig in frozen ground? Soil so cold, it's like a brick wall. Crocuses, highly irregular, writes Joe Carr, knifing up through the hard, frozen ground, sticking their necks out because they believe in spring and have something personal and emphatic to say about it. It takes courage to be crocus-minded, to know it will be hard but push through anyway, to know how the world ought to look, ought to be, studded with green, small bursts of color that herald the coming of longer, warmer days. Somebody has to stick his neck out, somebody who cares enough. The ground is still frozen in our liminal season here, but we are called to be crocus-minded in this world of ours, where despair threatens to overwhelm, incredulity threatens to paralyze. We are called not to wait till June, not to fear rocking the boat or until we have discerned the perfect way to move, but to risk together action that might bring us into right relationship with ourselves, the world, and the holy, because we believe in spring. How many of you nodded in assent when Andrea said, "I am not a brave person. I am risk-averse. I do not seek to rock the boat, but prefer to be the peacemaker"? I think many of us would prefer to be the wild rose, not the crocus, but us UUs are not inclined towards meekness. We are not inclined towards conformity or quiet assent. We are a faith with a long legacy of rocking the boat and meeting the moment. We are a faith built upon heretics who dared to knife up irregularly through the brick-hard world of dogma and doctrine, slavery and human bondage, disenfranchisement and denial of rights. I hate to tell you, my beloveds, but you are, by choosing to be here in this pew right now, already crocus-minded. If we are to believe in spring, have something personal and emphatic to say about how the world ought to be, sticking our necks out, caring enough, willing to rock the boat and risking, even when circumstances are not perfect and the ground is hard, we will need to listen. To listen to those souls I spoke of, which speak to us under trustworthy circumstances, whispering in the soft, soft sun of daylight savings, the divine truth of what we are invited to do, what responsible action we are called to take. Responsible action, writes UU feminist theologian Sharon Welch, does not mean this certain achievement of desired ends, but the creation of a matrix in which further actions are possible, the creation of the conditions of possibility for desired change. Too often, caught in that endless spiral of what is the right choice, the perfect choice, the one that will solve the problem, we lose sight of the generative possibility that responsible action brings. Too often, we are acculturated to believe that this work of justice, can be accomplished by one hero with the silver bullet solution, when in fact it's 1,000 small actions gesturing in the direction of justice, done by people who do not think themselves brave, but know the work of justice will not be completed in our lifetime. Contemplative Thomas Merton says, "Do not depend on the hope of results. When you are doing the sort of work you have taken on, you have to face the fact that your work will apparently be worthless and even achieve no results at all. As you get used to this idea, you start more and more to concentrate not on the results, but on the value, the rightness, the truth of the work itself. The truth of the work itself, that knifing up through the brick wall of our circumstances may feel worthless and achieve no results at all, but the truth of the work, the value of the action, is where we draw spiritual satisfaction. The crocus pushes through the brick-hard wall of frozen ground because it has a vision written deep in its DNA about what the world ought to look like, how the landscape ought to be shaped. And it doesn't just keep that vision to itself, but it puts it out there. Justice is what love looks like in public, says Reverend Dr. Cornell West. Wrongs don't right themselves. Inequalities don't just dissolve. Us UUs are required to make justice the personal and emphatic thing we have to say. In public, in public, in public. Each and every day we wake, for at the center of our faith sits love, a love which we try to manifest, multiply with every responsible action we take, a love which must be brought into the public if we are to cut through the hard, frozen ground of our times. We must drag our love out of the private spheres of our lives and put it into the public square. For there we find the work of justice making. So often we stop ourselves from taking responsible action, stop ourselves from embodying courage, from sticking our necks out lest we fail, lest we not execute perfectly, lest what we hope for doesn't come to pass. But there is no perfection. There is no inevitable progress. There is no waiting it out until June when the hazards of winter are safely behind. Wrongs don't work themselves out, Joe Carr says. Injustices and inequalities and hurts don't just dissolve. Somebody has to stick his neck out. Somebody who cares enough to think through and work through hard ground. We are called to be in public now, to engage with justice in the workplace, to engage with justice in the streets, to engage with it on the subway and the schoolyard and the soccer team. We are called to be in public, to meet this moment with every ounce of courage that we have prayed for, and it will be hard, beloveds. For right now, the hard thing and the right thing are one and the same. I called this service No Easier Way after a reflection written by my colleague, the Reverend Elizabeth Wynn. The work of justice, she says, often asks us to do impossible, hard, terrifying things. There is no easier way. There is only one hard way. Folks with privilege get caught up here. She says, if it's hard, maybe we're doing it wrong. We are lulled by our experience of choosing between a hard choice and an easier one. Folks with less privilege know that many of our choices are between a horrific one and a horrific one. We learn to live with that and keep going. So many of the heroes we elevate who did things we admire lived lives of minimal privilege, afforded very little choice, living each day in a constrained matrix of options between horrific and horrific choices. I want to tell you about Ida B. Wells Barnett, journalist in the Reconstruction South who was fired for writing about the dire conditions of the Memphis schools, who went on to write in detail about the horrors of lynching. The extrajudicial murders that were commonplace, allowed to happen in broad daylight by throngs of white men and white women and white children to keep African Americans in a position of subjugation, in fear, always. That's my baby, so. We're all in it together, you know? Her choice was between living her life in a culture of death at the whims of whites or writing about it, drawing attention to it, and enough outrage, maybe, just maybe, to change it, but not without making herself a target. She learned to live with the choice between horrific and kept right on going until she died in 1931. Unitarian Universalism is a faith which reveals to you that there is no easy choice. To live with integrity is to take the harder way each and every time. Scott Warren is a Unitarian Universalist out of Tucson, Arizona, who was acquitted in 2019 of federal charges stemming from his participation in No More Deaths. How many of you know the story of Scott Warren? No More Deaths, based out of the Tucson, Arizona UU Church, a faith-based humanitarian nonprofit which drops food and water in the Sonoran Desert to aid people migrating through the deadly terrain. Asked during his trial, "What are you doing spending your whole life helping strangers?" Warren responded, "It feels choiceless." How could you not do that when there are people dying around you? How could you not respond? I am moved by his faith. Scott Warren, I am moved by his reframing as a person of privilege that there isn't a choice if we are to be the Unitarian Universalists we yearn to be. If not him, then who? If not us, then who? We are the ones we are waiting for. We are the ones, beloveds, because all of us are living in constrained choices now. As the stakes get higher and the risks grow greater, the funding falls out from under us, the health care withheld, the parks left to go to seed, the children abandoned. We are in it together, choosing between the hard choice and the hard choice, and the hard choice is the right choice. The one that aligns with the whisperings of your soul, the one that will inevitably lead you to mistakes, but closer to the divine. The right choice and the hard choice are one and the same now, and they will require courage. Courage, which comes from knowing you are not alone. We are here together, belonging and bound by covenant. We are here together, out there, tied up and bound by the web of life. We are together. The central task of religious community, writes Reverend Dr. Mark Reed, is to unveil the bonds that bind us, each to each other. There is connectedness, he says, a relationship discovered that once felt inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us we are not struggling for justice on our own. For alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength is too limited to do all that must be done. Together our vision widens and our strength renews. The ground is still frozen in our liminal season here, but we are called to be crocus-minded. In this world of ours where despair threatens to overwhelm and incredulity threatens to paralyze, we are called, as the Unitarian Society of Germantown, not to wait until June, not to wait until we have discerned the perfect way to move, but to risk together responsible action that might gesture towards the love we seek to make public in this world. Together, we find courage to do the hard thing, the right thing. For what other choice do we have? May it be so, and amen.
Please join in rise and body your spirit for the hymn number 211 in the gray hymnal, We Are Climbing Jacob's Ladder. As we extinguish our chalice, please join me in unison with the words printed in your order of service, followed by our sung response. We extinguish our chalice, but the flame remains in us as we live into the mission of this congregation, building beloved community with compassion, service, and empowerment.
You are already crocus-minded for being here today. You are the inheritors of a great legacy of heretics who shot up through brick-hard frozen ground to declare how the world ought to be. We are the ones we are waiting for. What is called for in this moment must be done by us. And we will do it together, drawing strength and courage from knowing we are not in it alone, and the work will not be done in our lifetimes. Go forth, find spring. Be loved. Amen. If you are a member, stick around for the vote. Will happen very, very soon. And if you are not a member, you may head out to Fellowship Hour and have some pizza.
Hello, we'll be starting the special meeting in just a few minutes, folks. Folks, we're going to start the meeting very soon. So please take a seat. Okay, if I can have everyone's attention. Hello? Good morning, everyone. Thank you for staying for our special congregational meeting. I'm Carla Campbell, President of the Board of Trustees, and I want to thank all the helpers today. We have the newly formed Denominational Affairs Committee folks, and some of our board members helping out with the election. So everyone, we have been allotted 5 delegates from the UUA for General Assembly, which will be in June in Baltimore. And we have ballots with a slate of 5 individuals who have volunteered to be delegates. So anybody who's been a member since December 9th, 2024 is eligible to vote. We have helpers in the aisles passing out a ballot, a small envelope, and a large envelope. So, and a pencil or pencil if you need it. Now the procedure is to mark 5 names on the ballot so that you're voting for 5 delegates, and then fold that into the small envelope, put the small envelope in the large envelope, and write your name on the outside of the large envelope. Do not put anything on the small envelope. That will keep your vote private. And we'll have a team tallying the votes after we collect the envelopes. And what we plan to do is send out an email this coming week, informing people of the results. This special congregational meeting has not been done recently, but the bylaws do call for it. So our denominational affairs committee decided that this would be a good idea to have everyone actively vote for the delegates. Any questions? People should be collecting them. There should be a board member collecting. You can also bring them up to the front as you're leaving. We have Louise Lisi right there collecting. And we've got Philip Bullard can be collecting as well.